Okay, so welcome to part 5 of Switch On Your Brain. Last week we ended off in the middle of chapter 6. We were talking about milkshake multitasking, and so we're going to pick up and continue there. Before we get started though, last week I had asked you to kind of take this week to think a little bit about and evaluate if you were very much multitasking but not being super effective at it. So I would love to hear just a couple thoughts before we start on what that looked like for you this week. I know for myself, I was pretty aware that, you know what, I'm maybe not doing the best job when I think I am multitasking. My husband tells me often, Heidi, you think you're multitasking well, but I can just see in your eyes that you actually zone right out of one thing and you're not doing both things well. And I used to get offended by that, but I actually am really appreciating he's actually trying to help me and steer me. So you know what, just to really focus on that one thing, do that one thing really well instead of trying to do 15 and then by the end of the day you feel exhausted, right? So instead stop milkshaking. And it was interesting, we heard about what it actually does to our body chemistry and to the cells in our brain. Right? If you think about that, it makes you a little bit like maybe I shouldn't try to be super mom, superhero, because it's actually having, effect on the cells. It's actually shaking things up inside of there. And so some thoughts. I would love to hear, what a couple of you have to say on kind of what your week felt like or what you perceived in it.
Well, I know for myself, just my brain, the way it's always going. And I notice it more, I think, during devotions, that it's just, you try to focus it. And now I'm just even more aware of wondering how much is just almost being damaged, right? Or you're losing so much because I'm not focusing on one thing at a time. But I mean, it happens everywhere, but that's where I notice it the most, because you're trying to be quiet more on purpose than you would necessarily doing other tasks, right? But yeah, it's just being aware. The step one.
Yes, that totally makes sense. That's exactly it, because we were talking last week, awareness is the first. It's like when I dealt with anxiety, once you become aware, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, then you can actually start making choices on what you're going to do. But you're so right. I feel the same way during devotion time or any type of quiet time. And we talked about that intentional rest. That is when you pick up on it and you realize how many things are actually going on. And then you try and get quiet and you almost can't, and you have to reteach yourself on how to be still. So yeah, super interesting. It's cute when the little kids come and smile with us. Anybody else?
Hi. I'll unmute that again. Stephanie.
Sounds good. Okay, anybody else before we get going here?
I've started meditating just to train myself to calm my thoughts. So I do that 20 minutes a day, and you kind of catch yourself, kind of your thoughts wander, but I'm able to bring my thoughts back, focus more.
That's awesome, Suzanne. You are actually changing the wiring of your brain by doing that. It's going to probably start feeling easier and easier. That's really, really good. That's awesome. It's just those intentional, it's really hard in the beginning, right? It probably has felt kind of like, A, do I have 20 minutes to sit down and do this? And B, like you said, you notice it, and then you have to, it's like doing exercise on your brain muscles. You have to bring it back. Same thing back to anxiety, those intrusive thoughts, they would just come and come and come. And the first while feels really hard because you're having to just like grab it, clench it and throw it away, and then it just comes rebounding back. And it's just, practice. And I have people saying, how long is this going to take? It just takes time for your brain to rewire, but it's possible, which is so neat. And now I have a much easier time, which I'm glad for that journey, because I have a much easier time recognizing, like, you know what, that's just a thought. It doesn't belong here. It's not truth. You capture it and you ditch it rather than just mulling it over. Yeah, that's so good to just be still on purpose. Yeah. One more person that wants to share? Please.
What are you guys sharing? I just got on, sorry. I just woke up and saw the thing in Taking Over Brandon. I was like, oh, it's 10. Just want to see Heidi. So what are you guys sharing right now?
We are just talking really quick about, we were talking about milkshake multitasking last week. So we were just talking about, right, how this week we were just going to kind of take a peek at and pay attention to how much we were ineffectively multitasking. And
Okay.
we talked about coming into like a rest on purpose, taking time to be quiet, be still, right? So that we're not
Okay.
actually damaging our brain cells. Like,
Okay. I
yeah.
definitely take time to be still. Actually, I had a really good talk with a friend of yours the other day, that Delia Clement.
Yeah.
Me and her have a lot in common, which is so exciting for me. To be honest, we got on the phone and talked for an hour and a half. So,
Wow.
yeah, we are super, super aligned here. It's pretty amazing. I am so thrilled because I didn't know I was going to find people like this in Plexus, right? At all. I didn't, because especially the way that I was getting information from my mom, and every time my mom tells me, oh, this is not okay, that's not okay, right? But in my heart, I'm like, this is great. This is making me feel so much more connected. This is right. And I knew in my heart I was right, even though she's constantly telling me, you're wrong, okay? And this is someone that I trust, right? And I believe, and I know she's a good woman, and she's got great intentions, and she's a super believer, but she's also shut herself off from this thing that can take her to the next level, right? It does. And you can rewire your brain. I'm so excited to do this, especially meeting Delia yesterday even. Like, it's just kind of making things more cemented for me, right? I know I'm on the right path. This is just one of those other big smacks in the face, right? That, nope, you are on the right track. Even with all the crap in your life, it's true. They just help you to be able to connect to the other people, right? All the crap in your life just makes you be able to relate. Like, I watched Jessica's live the other day. Mandy had forwarded it to a friend of mine. Jessica's video sold Plexus, okay, to my friend. My friend wants the meal replacement. She's like, that video, I'm sold, I'm in. Because of the testimony, right? That wow, just amazing. Anyways, taking time for yourself. I'll answer your question there. I do meditate. I do something called the Silva method, okay? And it is such a great way to repair your body. And you're repairing your body at the alpha level of mind, which is the state of mind you're in when you're sleeping, and that's when your body does all of its repairing, right? But I'm doing it when I'm conscious, and I'm in control of where it's going and what I'm working on. I'm the one, right? But personally, it's like a non-denominational program, so you could give it to anybody, okay? Because they don't use any identifying words for a deity or whatnot, right? So it's not going to offend anyone, which I really liked. Okay, but I do my guide, and it is Christ. I'll tell you guys that much, okay? Just because that's the one that resonates for me, right? That's the one that I feel is my strength and all that kind of stuff, right? So I actually, in my mind, when I'm meditating, I'll walk on a beach with Jesus. But the weird thing is I've never seen his face, only his feet. It's weird. Whatever, right? But I always thought that part was interesting because I've got people like Nikola Tesla on my little planet in my mind that I go talk with. I'll see their faces and everything, but not Jesus. So I thought that was interesting. Anyways, but I do that one when I have a recent dislocation, or if I'm having a super crappy day. I call it going to level, okay? Where you do have to bow your head, and you do have to look up the 20 degrees to I call it the third eye. And it helps to keep you at level or keep you at that state of mind. And if you listen to the alpha sound in the background, it's just like little tapping. It just kind of sounds like this. It's the vibration of the alpha wave that's going through your brain. And if you listen to that sound when you're meditating or praying or being quiet, it helps to keep you there and shut out distraction. It's really neat. You can find the recording on YouTube. It's like 30 minutes.
Okay,
yeah.
Sounds good. Awesome. Thanks.
Welcome.
Okay. So let's jump back into the book. So chapter 6, we're going to start on page 99 for those that had the book. So like I said, we're talking about milkshake multitasking, and we were talking about just taking time for rest, and that's going to look different for everybody, right? Everybody has what works for them, and I want you to find something that feels comfortable. And, just like she was saying here in the book, there's different things, even daydreaming is intentional rest, right? Just allowing your mind to be and to, think about what could be and think about the future. And, it could be a nap. It could be whatever that means. So anyways, let's get going on 99. So she said, Scientists see evidence of the difference. So remember, we're picking up here where we were. So scientists are seeing the evidence of deep intellectual thought versus milkshake multitasking. So they're able to see this when they're doing scans, they're doing studies, they're doing research. Deep intellectual thinking activates the prefrontal cortex. So that's just above the eyebrow bone. So, you know, when you feel like there's just a lot going on, I actually had this yesterday. I just had a lot of things that I was trying to think through, and I actually felt a bit of a heaviness across my eyebrow bone, and I had remembered it from the book. So you hear that as people saying, I have a tension headache. You know, often migraines give that feeling of just right across. It feels like just a heaviness. So this was fascinating to me. So it says this rest activates the prefrontal cortex in a positive way, producing increased concentration, less distraction, less switching between tasks, more effective switching between tasks when you need to, and decreased emotional validity and overall increase in job completion. So often I literally will put something on the stove and I'll start making eggs, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, well, I have like 2 minutes. I'll quick walk to the office, do this. And then the girls are like, Mom, your eggs are burning. I have completely forgotten that I put eggs on the stove. And I know I'm not the only one. It could be boiling water. It could be, doesn't matter, running a sink of water for some purpose, right? And the sink's like this far from the top. So we're not effective because we're not switching effectively, and then you're forgetting. So it's what she's talking about. And it's just interesting that it says this deep intellectual rest actually improves those connections between the nerve networks. So that's really what it all comes down to, is the signaling that's happening throughout the body and how well it's being done and how strong those signals are. So she talks about determination is key. The next little bit that we're going through is a lot of science. Like almost, I love science and I love knowing why, but it was almost like reading a textbook by a professor in university. So I encourage you, if you love that, we don't have time to go through every single scientific wording here and jargon. We would be here till tomorrow. But if you like that, do get the book. So she talks about, several stories in here to back up, and they're really fascinating. In regard to this whole concept, though, down at the bottom of 100, she says, there's two scriptures that hold on to the basis of the scientific evidence. Remember, these are totally connected. It's not one stands stronger than the other. They're actually really both connected. So one of them is, nothing that they have imagined they could do would be impossible for them. So that was Genesis 11:6. And so that goes on the, when you believe in yourself and you get an idea, you start making, remember we talked about your mindset is actually the precursor to everything else that happens, because you get this idea of this is what I want to achieve, and you just chew on it and you chew on it. So if you said this month, you know what, I want to hit that re-rank bonus, and you just, I'm going to hit the re-rank bonus, I'm going to do it. When you wake up in the morning, you will start doing things to get you to that. I wanted to hit Club 700 for the first time in my life. I did it this month, but at the beginning, I'm like, I'm doing it. It's non-negotiable. I'm just going to do it. So that made me reach out to people that I maybe wouldn't have before, or follow up. Like, we've been talking about this for a few months, and I told them this is kind of where I'm at. I would know you would love to support me. Would this be the right time for you? And I asked them that. I told them that. So what my mindset determined what actions I followed through this month. The next one is faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And it goes back to you believe it first, and then you just start putting it into action. You'll hear all the Plexus jewels talking about, really, it comes down to belief. It comes down to Ruth. I'm just looking. I don't know if you're on here. Yeah, Ruth is on here too. Ruth told me a while ago, we were talking about something, and she says, I just determined a way long time ago, I'm never quitting. So she never has to get up in the morning. That was so powerful to me. She doesn't have to ever get up in the morning and be like, this month, you know what, it wasn't the best, and we didn't see the growth we wanted to, and, a bunch of people quit. And yes, we did have people come on, but, you do this back and forth. Ruth never has to do that. How freeing, because she decided long ago, doesn't really matter what happens this month, I'm not quitting. Right? Isn't that an amazing perspective? And that can be in your fitness life. It can be in your career, whatever it is. you know what, yeah, today might be hard, tomorrow might be amazing, but I'm not quitting. And that was really encouraging to me. I hope it's encouraging to you. So she says, our brains may have stamps from the past, but they are rewired by our expectation of the future. That would be a really good one to write down. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. Yep, it totally made us who we are right now. But when you hope and have expectation of what the future can look like, that's really how you redirect and then how you can bring a change into your life. She says, imagining a positive future reduces the pain of the past. So we can either look in the rearview mirror, and you'll notice the rearview mirror of your car is not very big, or you can look through the windshield, which is ginormous, and you can look forward. Do we sometimes need to kind of look in the rear view just to kind of remember where we've come from? Totally. There's sometimes I think back to my past, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, right? I've been through a lot, but I don't stay staring in it, right? Same thing in your business. Yeah, you know what? Last month, it's a rear view mirror already, and last month maybe wasn't the best. I could have done some things better, but you know what? This month for August, I'm staring out of the front windshield. And I am going to make sure that I learned from what happened last month, and we're going to do things better this month. So I really love that. She says, when we are really mindful of this intentional rest and you know what's going on in there, she says we start processing information faster, we make decisions quicker, and we just improve our overall memory. So that's when we're allowing that rest. We're allowing things to not be helter-skelter all the time going on in the mind. And I really like that. So that takes us right to the end of chapter 6. And so the few highlights there's always a summary. Here's the 4 that I want you to pay close attention to. The first one is the truth about multitasking is that it's actually a persistent myth. Right? So our culture is teaching us, it's kind of like Keeping Up with the Joneses, that the more you do at once, the more of a superhero mom you are. You guys are going to see that all over social media. It drives me crazy when I see a post of people. I love them dearly, but there'll be a post. Wow, today I got up at 6 and I did this. I ran to the gym, did my workout, got the kids ready, mopped the floor, cleaned the toilet. Then I made an invoice for my husband and I packed all the lunches and then we went for groceries. Okay, and they do this all the way. And now it's 10:30 at night and I'm just sitting down. And then what happens next? There's about 300 comments underneath. Wow, you're amazing. You're a superhero. You're like the greatest mom ever. Wow, my husband would like to have a wife like you. What does that do to the rest of us? Now we're like, oh, shoot. I did a load of laundry and paid some bills and the kids are alive and fed, but clearly I didn't do enough. I always say, my kids are still alive. I'm still doing good. They're clean and they're not hungry. We all do a lot of things in a day, and I'm not saying you can't share what you do, but you guys see what I'm saying? By doing that, we're actually making it harder for our girlfriend, for our sister, for our mom, our coworkers, our sidelines, because now we're making this an imaginative expectation that really isn't a reality. Okay, so multitasking is a myth. We don't actually do it well, and that's what we're taking out of chapter 6. Number 2, what we really do is shift our attention rapidly and haphazardly from task to task. We're not doing it well. It results in 2 negative things. We don't devote as much focused attention as we should to the specific thing that we should be focusing attention on, right? That can be your business, that can be your kids. If you're going to work on do your IP and do your business, do it really well. And tell the kids, you know what, mommy needs 1 hour. I'm going to close my office door. I need to do this really well. And then when you're with the kids, put your phone down. I'm still learning too. It's because our phones have both our work and our personal, right? But we need to choose to do that better. And I like how Emily Gibson said on a video I watched of her, she says, you know what? She says, I don't make work hours. It's too hard. I make family hours. So between 6 and 9 p.m., I don't do anything work. I actually don't even pick up my phone. That's just family only. And she said, then the rest of the day, it's kind of like here and there, and you do IP and you're answering messages on the go. She said, that's okay. If it's too hard to do work hours, do family hours. So I like that. The second negative thing is we sacrifice the quality of our attention because we're milkshaking. And actually, I'm going to add a third thing. We're actually harming our brain cells. And we don't want to get into retirement age and have done so much damage that now we are suffering major memory loss, and those types of things are starting to set in, because that will happen. It will accumulate. The third thing, the general pattern today is that so much attention is paid to tweeting, Instagramming, Facebooking, social media, and we are missing out on those really quality experiences. So that goes back to when you're going to make your post and you're going to use that, do it. Do it well, but then get off, right? So that we don't see your green little available light on all day long, because you're not on and off. You are on all day and you're getting stuck in the scroll. I'm not perfect at it. I'm teaching myself right now. But it's just something, to pay attention to. And number 4, milkshake multitasking decreases our attention. It makes us increasingly less able to focus. It opens us up to shallow decisions and weak judgments. That was interesting. And it results in passive mindlessness. So we're just not utilizing ourselves to the best of our ability, really. And the shallow judgments, that stood out to me. I think when we're exhausted, we're overrun, and we're trying to multitask like this, it makes it really hard to be able to look at a situation and first see the best in someone versus like, what on earth were they thinking, right? Why did they do that? It can be your kids, your husband, someone in plexus, right? I was with someone this weekend and they said, you know what? I said, I think this person, they're kind of not, I've just noticed a difference. And I told them why I thought, and they said, you know what, honey, that actually, I know it's easy to think that, but they said that might not actually be why, but it could be because it's been 2 years since you've talked to them, right? And life just goes its own separate ways. And I'm like, you're so right. And so when we can have just a calm mind like that, we're able to have a better judgment. Chapter 7. This one is so heavy in the science. We're going to, I'm going to point out some things here, but again, it talks about quantum physics. You guys, I didn't graduate from physics. Okay, so when I was reading this, I was just like, there's a lot in here. The information is amazing. I will go back. I'm gonna have to read it about 3 times to chew it. Essentially, though, she just keeps talking more about the physical, scientific chemistry of what's actually going on here. So we're gonna hit on what we can. And again, if you want it deeper, then go back to the book or listen to the audio. But so essentially, the science concept here is the process of thinking and choosing is the most powerful thing in the universe after God. The basic ingredients of quantum physics are paying attention, thinking, and choosing, and consequences of that. So for every choice, every thought we have, we make a choice, and for every choice we make, there's a natural consequence. And I've always taught my kids that since they were small. Right? There's a natural consequence. Sometimes those consequences are really good and really fun. Sometimes those consequences are not so great, but it was based on a choice that they made. And I'm trying to help them so when they go into adulthood, I mean, my parents, they are 60 and 63, and they're just getting divorced. What do you do at almost 65 years old to start all over again? They're both scrambling. They're both a little frantic. But you know what? At the end of the day, I need to be able to go to sleep at night and realize that's based on choices that they made, and it started with a mindset on how they felt about each other and things that were going on, right? And I fully believe that you need to make those decisions for what's right for you at the time of your life. Right? But I only brought that up because my mom is doing the woe is me, not the, you know what, this is what I need. I'm going to be stronger because of it. Right? It's kind of the woe is me, and they've made some choices where they don't really have any legs to stand on. And so, yeah, it's just, I have friends that had to make choices like that for their safety. Right? It doesn't matter what age you are at that point. I'm just saying, do you see how there's a buildup? And a little caveat here, sometimes those things happen, and it has nothing to do with you as a person. Especially, my mom had to get out of her second marriage because of abuse situations. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not what I was talking about here. I was talking about more the, you make choices. Well, I don't know if I really like you anymore, and I kind of would rather travel with my friends. That's more what I was talking about, not those serious situations. Okay, so the science. At the bottom of 104, I'm going to give you a little definition of here. She says quantum physics. What is it exactly? So quantum physics is a way of explaining how things that make up atoms work and make sense of how the smallest things in nature work. That already sounded confusing to me. Essentially, quantum means energy, and quantum physics tells us how electromagnetic waves like light waves and particles work. Okay, so it's just kind of the connection between the science and the mindset. Quantum physics says a few things. Your consciousness affects the behaviors. It says of subatomic particles. We're just going to leave it at your consciousness affects the behaviors. So what you think about affects your choices. She says, she's talking about subatomic particles. Particles move backward and forward in time and appear in all possible places at once. The universe is connected with transfers of information that are faster than light. Transfers of information we're dubbing as thoughts, right? That's what she's talking about here. There's a theory surrounding quantum physics. Quantum theory converts science's conception of humans from being just mere cogs in a giant mechanical machine to actually being free-thinking agents. That's totally scriptural, right? We were born with we were given a free will, created with a free will. And so we're not just robots. We have the option to choose. We get to choose. We can change our choices. So we're not just, a unit in this, perfectly oiled machine that doesn't matter what we think. It just keeps going the same. That's not the case. She says, each day you go through several events and circumstances of life. You're faced with a multitude of possibilities to choose, from what to wear in the morning to how you're going to react to an email that you just received, right? How you're going to respond to a no, how you're going to respond to a yes. These are all different things that we get to choose. What you're going to eat for lunch today, right? It's going to affect your health later on. She says, it's you with your ability to think who directs the choice. So you collapse all the probabilities into one choice, right? So no matter what it is, there's multiple choices, and we have to collapse them into the one that we're going to go with. So that could be, I'm having eggs for breakfast, she says, or I'm not going to be upset by the tone of that email, or I will not say I can't today, right? So when you dumb it down to all the probabilities to the one, if you wake up today and say, you know what, I'm not going to say that I can't. Whatever I come into today, even if it's hard, I'm going to say, I might not be good at it, but I'm going to try, right? I've never done it before, but I'm going to give it a whirl. And you remove the can't, it makes everything so much easier. If you say, you know what, today I am going to wake up and I'm going to stay away from the food that I know is bad for me. Then when there's 2 plates in front of you, you know which one to choose. So it's just deciding ahead of time what that is. She says, Satan is the father of lies in John 8:44, and yes, he sure is. He will come at you with 1,000 negative probabilities. But you always need to remember that a probability has no power. Nothing. A thought is simply a thought. And a friend freed me from that part of anxiety because I was telling her some of these intrusive, scary thoughts I was having. And she says, you know what, Heidi, I totally had that too. But here's the thing. A thought is only a thought until you put it into action. Right? So that's where we get to decipher, catch those thoughts, take them captive. And she said it only becomes powerful when you believe the lie and collapse the probability into an actuality. So now it goes from being just an option to you actually grabbed hold of it, you believe it, and now it will take root. So the biggest one that I see is discouragement. Lack of confidence, lack of belief, and discouragement, that's probably the greatest destructor of success in any area of your life, family, health, business, friendships. The second you start believing I'm not good enough, I can't do it as good as she can, I can't write it as good as she can, I can't make a post the way she can, I can't do a Facebook Live, right? She does it better than me. I'm never going to look like her. Whatever that is, you believe that lie and it takes deep root. You guys, I have seen people that are soaring on track towards Ruby, towards Emerald and beyond, and one thing took root, and they pretty much lose it all. It's not that they lose the people, they lose the fight in their mind, they stop showing up, they stop doing their IPA, and then their people don't see them because they're not visible as a leader. Guess what happens next? Now those people all of a sudden take root. I wonder, she was so excited she brought me into this business, but where is she? She's not here. I wonder if I should be questioning. I guess if it's not important to her, I don't need to do my IPA either. Do you see how the choices you make affect the generations and everybody around you? So it was just so interesting to me, and more every day I literally see this. Discouragement and lack of self-confidence is going to make or break you. And it starts with, what lies are you believing? She says, let's apply some basic ingredients of quantum physics, which is paying attention, thinking, choosing, and the consequences of that. So I highlighted a few. So on the information aspect, she says, these are examples, okay? This is actually a full example. She says, first, you get the information. So in this case, it's you get a call from the doctor's office telling you the results of your blood test are in, and they would like you to come in as soon as possible, right, to discuss them. The second process is now the thoughts. You've gotten the call, now the thoughts are coming. So multiple thoughts are going to swirl around right away in your mind. One option is fear. You're right away going to say, there must be something wrong. Oh my gosh, why do they need to see me right away? I wonder what it says. It must be something bad. Okay, that usually one takes over pretty quickly. What if I have this, or the other thing? And then she says it goes on and on down to planning the songs for your funeral. Pretty much. Do you guys know when my muscles are twitching when I had anxiety? I was pretty much planning my funeral. I went to Google. It said I had MS. I figured, great, I'm pregnant. I have toddlers. I'm going to be in a wheelchair soon. They're not going to know me, and I'll probably die before they graduate. I had everything planned out because I ran away with the thought. It wasn't even a reality yet, but I ran away with it. There's option 2, though. Option 2 is denial. You can tell yourself, okay, this is routine. I'll call them back when I have time. It's normal for them to let me know if something's outside of their range for good or bad. Option 3 is trust. You can say, you know what? I have faith it's going to be good news. It's going to be what it's going to be, but I'm going to believe, and I'm not going to be moved by a doctor's report. It might be that my numbers are off, but I'm choosing to believe, and I know that my body has the power to heal itself if I give it what it needs. Do you see how there's, the different lines? And then you have a choice to make. You choose an option of the ones we just talked about. So for instance, if you choose fear, your brain responds by wiring in that thought. Now you've just put it in. It's like loading a pistol. You have just said, Kate, that's the one I choose. Lock and load. Now it's rewired into there. And she says, so what you start thinking is, I'm sick. I'm sick. They're calling me. There must be something wrong. I'm sick. And you live into this thought, and you will start reacting according to that thought. Right? After that, there's going to be a consequence. You suddenly feel sick. You're sure that you're dying. Right? Do you know how many doctor's visits are actually according to, okay guys, my mom is a perfect example of this. We do struggle with some mental health issues, and she is a perfect example of this. I had to take her to emergency because I actually thought she might be dying, because her symptoms were so whatever, but that came from telling herself, I must have this, I must have this, I must have this. She got to the point where she couldn't get off the couch anymore. That's very scary, and it shows you the power. We talked about it later when she felt better, and she said, you know what, I think you're right. I think that's exactly what happened. She says, I was anxious, and I did have myself convinced that I had something wrong with me. And her body, her physical body reacted and started manifesting, and she did have all the symptoms. And so very, very fascinating, interesting. The last one is there's going to be a new consequence to that. You phone the doctor. Your results are totally clear when you get there. It was no big deal. And suddenly you feel fine. Ever had that happen? That was me when I was told I just had anxiety, not MS. It was almost like, whew. All of a sudden those symptoms were gone. I didn't feel the muscle twitching anymore because it was a different type of a mindset. So very interesting. And she says you kind of might perhaps feel a little bit foolish. And so interesting. So your brain becomes what you focus on. And what your brain has become produces what you say and do and how you feel physically and mentally. I think we're probably, most of us or all of us, out of this stage now. But it's kind of like when you're like, hey, we're going to start a family and I want to get pregnant, and you go to the mall and every single woman is pregnant except you, or the other way around, right? You're pregnant and you feel like a little mini hippopotamus in the middle of summer like I did. I was due in July, and everybody around me is in little tank tops and shorts with a flat little belly, and I was the only one that I saw, right? Big and pregnant, because I was seeing what I was focusing on. And it's the same thing. If you have a red car and you want a black one, you're going to see black ones everywhere. And so it's very fascinating. She gets into some definitions. We're going to skip a few pages here, but I'll just read you from the beginning. She gets into quantum mechanics. Now that's very sciencey to me. That's very like going to the university. She says quantum mechanics can be used to prove that thinking and choosing are real and measurable. So we've kind of determined that that is already. The way you experience your feelings, the way you interface with your thoughts, and the kind of attention you give them is going to change how your brain functions. So just with like a quick nod or thumbs up, is that making sense? Right? How we're talking about, yeah. Okay, so we're going to zoom over a few pages here over to 110, because the next couple pages she just talks about the real, like I said, science about the quantum, and she calls it a quantum Zeno effect. And to be honest, I can't pronounce and understand a lot of it. So we're going to skip to 110, where she talks about the law of entanglement. This part's really fascinating. She says everything and everyone is linked, and we all affect each other. So that's true, right? That's true on many, many different levels. She says the law of entanglement has a biblical correlation. So the verse is, so we being many are one body in Christ and individually members of one another, out of Romans 12:5. So if you're not doing what God put you on this earth to do, right? We all have a purpose here, and the purpose is so much beyond ourselves. And our purpose here might actually be affecting someone that's not even born yet, right? Because how the chain of reactions happen. So she says you have this purpose. If you're not doing it, then even though you may not know me, you're still affecting my life. Because a choice that I make, let's just say, let's use Plexus. So a choice that I make to share with someone I'm talking to right now in Florida, right? If she gets on board, she's possibly going to tell someone that's, let's say, has type 2 diabetes, and it's going to change the future of their health and possibly of their children. So do you see how that works? And of course, we can use that on any level of life, emotional, physical. And so it's really amazing that life is so much more than ourselves, and we do have impact on each other. So she says, in fact, we are so entangled that our intentions alter not only our own DNA, but the DNA molecules of other people. And that's because choices we make, right, mindset, whatever it is, affects the people in our home, the people around us. And do you ever notice when you're around someone that just has just a negative disposition, you walk away feeling a little bit like drained? It's actually affecting you. So they say you are the sum of the 5 that you spend the most time with. And it's interesting because it's true. Because when I go on a coffee date, I either leave feeling really filled up and light, or the other way around. And I notice now when I'm in a coffee date, if I'm talking about to someone I trust, I always notice I want to be really careful. Are they going to feel filled up, or are they going to feel totally drained like I just pooped on them when I leave, right? I want to be sure that the person I'm talking to is someone you can share with openly, but that's not taking it as like an oppression. And so you want to be careful who you do share your hearts with. Research shows that even 30 seconds a day of direct, heartfelt intention will cumulatively alter not only your own destiny, but will impact many, many others around you. She says it'll impact the lives of others in this generation and the next 3 at least. I always tell people too on my team, they say, you know what, I don't know this, that. I say, you know, what you say matters. people say, I don't know if they want to, see this. I don't know if they want to hear this. Yes, they do. What you say matters, right? We do. Of course, we want to hear it. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear how you're doing. What you say and what you think matters. It will affect others. So share it. We are entangled on 112 in each other's lives, and this is reflected in the structure of the brain. We have mirror neurons that fire up as we watch someone else laugh or cry or drink a cup of coffee. So even if we're just in the perceiving mode, there's actually things firing and wiring, which is why you get they're laughing and someone's laugh is contagious, right? Or you see someone hurting and you instantly feel that heartstring of empathy. And so it says, through these neurons, we literally fire up activity in the brain without actually using our 5 senses. So that's neat. You're not physically having to do something. It's literally just, it's just through the neurons and through the feelings. We know God operates outside of these space-time dimensions, and we know prayer does too. There's many stories of people praying for each other on different sides of the planet and experiencing the effect of that prayer. You can't even see them. You're not with them, right? You're on opposite sides of the planet. And yet it says, in fact, there's many documented studies on the impact of prayer in the world of neuroscience, in addition to the millions of testimonies from Christians. So this isn't just a Christian thing. There's actual neuroscientific studies that they've done on this that show that there is something to this. This is real. This is effective. I love on page 114, she says, I love what Dr. Is it Levy or Levi, guys, when there's a Y on the end? Help me. Help a mom out. Levi? Levy? Levy? Dr. Levy. Okay. Dr. Levy says about how he approaches the often life-threatening and frightening brain surgeries that his patients face. So this is a medical doctor, right? He's a brain surgeon. I'm going to read this to you if you guys don't mind. This is what he wrote. I've been in this profession for a good number of years and am intimately familiar with the most new therapies, medical devices, and drugs hitting the market. Many of them are ingenious, and I use them regularly in my practice. I've consulted for several companies to develop better devices and have traveled the world teaching others to use them. I admire and I'm grateful for modern medical technology, but though technology can prolong a life or reduce pain, it does not always make life better. My experiences have convinced me that spirituality is a crucial element to the well-being of a person as a whole. Moreover, if we let him, God can do powerful supernatural in our everyday lives. Do you guys hear that if we let him? Because he's a loving God. He's not an arbitrator. He's not a dictator. It's if we allow him, he will. But he's not going to force himself upon us. That's why I began inviting God into my consultations, exams, and surgeries. Many would be surprised that a neurosurgeon, a man of science, logic, and human progress, would be such a strong believer in God and divine intervention. Yet the experience has been nothing short of phenomenal. Amazing. Science meets up with what the Bible says. Our prayers impact each other, but so do the negative words we speak over people that we're in a relationship with. Last week at church, the message was actually on exactly this, calling out the good. We're so good at calling out the nitpicking imperfections. We need to get better at calling out the good in our kids, in our husbands. I need to work on this big time, because when you're busy, it's very easy to see things that didn't get done well enough, right? And so calling out the good. And there are times where you need to correct and you need to tell people, you know what, right? This is something that really bothers me. But he says, use the sandwich principle. Start with something, you know what, you are amazing at this. I love this character that you have, this, and this. When you do this though, right, this hurts me, or this is how I feel. And then finish off with, but I'm so thankful that you're this, and this. So that you're still calling out the good, but you're offering correction in the meantime. So as moms and as wives, On page 115 at the bottom, scientists say our thought signals always seem to move faster than the speed of light in ways that classical physics cannot explain. That's beyond my being able to comprehend. That's science, that you can't see. But she says, how else do you explain the effect we have on each other and how someone with a negative attitude impacts how you feel? So that's what we were talking about. You go on that coffee date and you leave just feeling like, oh, I feel so heavy. There's a couple people, and that's where it comes into having healthy boundaries, right? Healthy boundaries for yourself. If you can handle it, great. You can be a real light to that person's life. If you leave and it just affects the rest of your week, you probably need to put a bit of a healthy boundary there until you get strong enough to be able to be in that situation and not let it completely change and manifest into yourself feeling heavy. And that does happen naturally. Unpredictability, she talks about on 116 and 117. You will never be 100% accurate in predicting exactly what another person is thinking, right? Not possible. Even someone that you know really well, because we don't know each other's thoughts. So we can assume and we can judge and we can make predictions on what we think they're going to say, but that's not the reality. She says, like the weather tomorrow, what your friend's going to say, what you're going to be doing at this exact same time next week. In fact, all aspects of life in the future. These all follow Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. It gives us two options, faith or fear. So the fight or flight response, right? You're going to have faith and you're going to fight and be strong, or you're going to flight and you're going to have fear and you're going to allow yourself to track down essentially the wrong road. She says, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is a nightmare for classical physicists and others who try to explain away God and free will. Einstein, who could never reconcile himself to this random aspect of nature, he famously pronounced, and I won't say it in his German way, I'll say it in English, the old man that is God does not play dice. Well, God is not playing dice. He's simply telling us to trust him and stop trying to control everything, because that's where we get stressed out. We try to control everything in our being. And she says that's a full-blown setback for the notion that the future can be accurately forecasted. Einstein simply looked at it from the wrong angle. The correct angle is found in Scripture. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. So my devotion last night was totally perfect to this. It was essentially when you're just coming with that willingness and saying, right, I'm here, do what you need to do. He will lift you up. And I loved it. It said when the time is right, not in our timing, not the way we want to see things play out, but when the time is right, if you're there and you're willing, he will work. The other verse, Proverbs 19:21, says, many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it's the purpose of the Lord that's going to stand. It actually says that will stand. So I love that. So then just at the end, that takes us to the end of chapter 7. In perfect timing here. So just a couple things. The summary here is really long because it's quantum everything. Number 8, I liked on page 120. So quantum theory converts science's conception of humans from being mere cogs in this gigantic mechanical well-oiled machine to being free-thinking agents whose conscious free choices affect the physical world. So they call that the observer effect. And then down to number 12 on page 121, thought signals seem to move faster than the speed of light and in ways that classical physics cannot explain. It means our minds control matter and is therefore a creative force. So we do have the power to choose. We have the power to change. We have the power to make next month amazing, right? In whatever area of life that is, you can make today amazing if yesterday wasn't the best. So it's just all what you're choosing. We're getting into chapter 8, so there's some more science on thought. And we're getting really close to the 21-day detox plan. I'm going to have you read chapter 8 on your own. It's very interesting, it's much more the science again. So because we want to get to the detox plan, I'm going to have you read 8 on your own. We're not really going to go over it next week because it's a lot of this. Do you guys see all this chart? Very interesting, excellent part of the book, but we're going to move ahead. I will hit on just a couple points, but we're going to move ahead for next week to chapter 9. And chapter 9 begins part 2, and it's the 21-day brain detox plan. So now we get to start getting to where the rubber's going to meet the road. There's going to be a little bit more learning. 9 is 21-day detox plan. What is it? So we're just going to talk about, we're going to go through what is it? What is this going to look like for us? We'll talk through chapter 10 as well in how and why it works. And I think that will probably get us through next week. Any thoughts today on anything we talked about? Any insights from someone that hasn't shared yet today?
I have one thing I could share. It's kind of a motto I actually have held on to since I heard it. And it's, if you think you can or you can't, you're right either way. And right, it is. I love that you just said we can control matter and things with our thoughts, because I always believe that. And it is true either way. And I know this. And I am really bad for this, but it still gives it weight. Even if I'm thinking something negative and it happens, of course it does, right? I've thought it. So that's, even though it's still bad, it's still whacking me in the face being like, see, your mindset. You have to change the way you're thinking and reacting to get a better result. So it's, I heard this thing once, blew my mind. This guy had AIDS, okay? He got rid of his AIDS, guys, from watching funny movies and watching comedies. He filled his life with laughter, and it cured his AIDS.
Laughter is the best medicine, they say.
I couldn't believe it. He cured his AIDS because he wouldn't allow the negativity to come in. He just kept putting in laughter and love and thinking positive, right? And kept thinking, I am healthy, I am fine, I am great, I'm going to live forever, right? And I do that a lot with myself. Like if I hurt myself, I'm like, I'm fine, I'm good, it's just whatever. It's this because this is how I manage daily pain, is with this. I don't do it perfectly every day, but it is I can do this, right? Mindset.
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 Mindset is key, totally. Okay, so we're going to meet back here next week at same thing, Saturdays at 10 and whatever time zone, Central Standard Time. And we will, like I said, look at chapter 8, chapter 9 and 10. We're going to get into what is the 21-day detox, how and why does it work. And as we get into August here, we are going to reset so we can go into fall. And yeah, at least be just conscious and start making changes. It's going to take time, but we can do this. It's like the 21-day food reset I did. This is a brain reset. So we're going to do this together. And I wish you guys all an amazing weekend, and we will chat throughout the week, and we will chat again next week. So have an excellent day. I was going to say night. Have an excellent weekend. Excellent day. And see you later, guys.
Bye. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye.